and welcome back. And I know that you have had your eyes and ears glued to social media or the television or some type of media stream, and you saw the cadre of amazing performances, new NCAA records. Of course, an NCAA record was going to be broken. I, it's just been the theme. What a weekend. What a weekend. It was a great Division One meet. I was glued to either my television or my phone. Wonderful thing about having ESPN Plus, I could watch it live wherever I was. And I think that is just fantastic. More of that for track and field, I hope. But a lot of great performances this weekend. And we're going to talk about each champion, each event. We'll talk about the team title. But I also want to share with you my results individually. There was a total of 34 events that were competed amongst the men and the women. I got a total of 15 correct. So I took a major step backwards compared to last outdoor season, which was probably one of my better predictions. 15 were correct. I had six for the women and nine for the men. Oh, well, we're going to talk about it. So let's, get started. We'll go from all the women's events and then we'll transition to the men's events. And we'll go from sprints to distance to jumps to throws. And then we'll include within the throws the multi event. And then we'll end with the team title. And that's how we'll structure this video. So, our first race we'll talk about, our first competition will be the women's 60. And we'll give all credit to Shanice Walker of she is from Jamaica, but of Florida State. It's about time we had a Florida State sprinter win the 60. They've been close a number of years, but she's been, finally able to break through as a senior. She ran the fastest time in a prelim. She ran a 7:07. Great performance, and I thought, does Tarleton have anything left in her legs? Excuse me, not Tarleton, but Victoria Cameron of Tarleton. Does she have anything left in her legs? What about a Deja? And then what about Deja DeFran, who I thought would just rock it because she ran a 7:09 last year, and I was thinking, oh, she's probably got like a 7:06 in her bag. And that didn't happen. She just came right back and ran 7:08, equaling the tied fastest time, but she has the fastest from the semifinals, so she's 1A and 1B. And her start, although she wasn't the fastest out of the block, she was probably number two and number three. Once she got 20 meters up, she was clear of the field. And they were chasing her more than they were running their race. She ran 7:08 and the runner up was 7:15, and that was between Adasia and Victoria. So she was a clear winner, and hats off to her and the great coaching that's going on at Florida State. A lot changed when Bob Rahman not passed, but he retired. And it's clear that Florida State is still trying to find an identity of how they want their program to look. But they are still performing at a high level, winning ACC championships, and now they've gotten, the first major national champion in the new era. Now, moving on to the 200, we'll talk about the aforementioned Adasia Hodge because she was the 200-meter champion running a 22:22, almost breaking the NCAA record held by Julian Alfred. It looked at one point she was going to get it, but those last 20 meters, even though she was running like a freight train, I was like, this isn't Julian Alfred's speed yet. And keep in mind, Julian Alfred was in her third or fourth year. This was Adasia's first year as a Georgia athlete, and she's already putting up impressive times. And that was also a PR for her because she had never ran that fast. She ran the 22:3 indoors in high school and didn't see that time again for the remainder of her high school career. But here she is running 22:2, winning the NCAA title in the 200. And this is the third year in a row that a freshman has won the 200 meters on the women's side. The previous two champions, Jamisia Ford and India Mayberry of South Carolina and TCU, neither of them really seemed to challenge Adasia, specifically Jamisia. She looked like she took her foot off the pedal in the final, and it looked like once Adasia went past her, she just ran a sort of safe face. But I'm hearing from many people and sources, they're saying that the focus for them is outdoor. I can't confirm that. I haven't spoken to Coach Tim Hall or heard Jamisia Ford speak on that. However, my hope is that she does come back with the fire that she had last season. She is great outdoors, and she proved that. My hope is that they don't run her into the ground or do what happened last year. This indoor season, it just felt like she was, protected a little more. Um, and it showed, but I just wish she had it was able to show up more in that 200 because Adeja flew around that track. When I saw that time, I was like, "Ugh, I think if she does not turn pro, I think she might break Julian Alfred's record next year. We'll see. And I also think she's going to run sub 22 outdoors because I think that's what's going to be needed because what we learned this weekend is this is a fast year, just all around speed from top to bottom. Getting to the finals required serious speed. Getting to the meet required serious speed. It's going to be that same way. Just getting to regionals is going to be tough for some. Specifically those in the eastern region, it's going to be tough being amongst the top 48. It is. It's just qualifying is going to be tough. Now, moving up, we'll move to the 400 and we'll talk to Adaja's teammate, Dejanay Oakley, also, again, of Georgia. Surprised many. I had her as a competitor early in the season, but she was sort of amongst the elite. She wasn't the elite yet, and I thought it would be between Madison White and Ella Onojuevo of LSU. Madison White did end up winning her heat, 50.6, but Dejanay Oakley won her first heat in 50.4. Um, just impressive time. And that's back to back years that Georgia women have produced a 400-meter national champion. We really need to give Coach Carol Smith Gilbert her credit because she, again, is doing a phenomenal job of producing great sprinters. But an area that she's not getting a lot of credit for is the 400 because when she was at USC, we all knew that, Quincy Watts was very involved. But we also need to recognize that perhaps she was involved too because she has moved on and we haven't seen USC have that depth in the 400 that they had uh, when Coach Carol Smith Gilbert was there. Now, they're still producing champions. Of course, Coach Quincy Watts and his staff are going to do that. But Coach Carol Smith Gilbert at Georgia, she's doing the damn thing. 50.4 for Dejanay Oakley, another Jamaican national champion. She was outstanding in that first heat, which was, to me, incredibly competitive. The 400 was insane. The times that we saw ran just 3 or 4 years ago would have been great times outdoors, but they're being run indoors. And I think she may be another 400-meter runner for Georgia to go under 50 seconds. Now, moving to the 60 hurdles, another event I got wrong. We will look at Aaliyah McCormick of Oregon. Um, and I mentioned this in the preview. Oregon didn't necessarily have the sprinters and hurdlers that they had all those years in the teens between 2013 and 2019. They still have the same coaching staff. I believe it's Coach Curtis. He's there, and he's still producing some great sprinters and hurdlers, and she's proof of that. Her time, 7:86, impressive in the 60-meter hurdles. Um, she outdid Emmy Scales, who looked to be off. When I saw her preliminary race, I thought, something's missing with Emmy, but nothing looked missing with Aaliyah. She looked focused, smooth, her technique was great, and she showed it in the finals. 7:86, outstanding time. A Big Ten champion winning the national champion. Big Ten has historically been great with hurdlers. And just because they've added Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington didn't mean that, it was going to change. In fact, they expected for that to be enhanced, and it has been. So hats off to Aaliyah, and it was a huge 10 team points for Oregon and their hopes for a national title. Now, moving up, we'll look at the 800. And yes, another event that I got wrong, but I did mention the winner is one of my options. And that's Gladys Chibikatich of Clemson. I thought for certain it was going to be Juliet Whitaker who would figure out a way to win. And she's beaten Gladys already this season at the ACC championship. But as we learned this weekend, a lot of those who won the conference championship kind of let off the pedal a little bit here. It just seems as if for some, the conference title was the only goal. Not all had the goal of let's win both. Gladys certainly wanted to rebound, and she ran a very smart race. Once she got the lead, she never really let it go. She held it for, I want to say, a good 2.5 laps, maybe three, but she looked solid throughout the whole race. We didn't get a sub 2 minute time, but she was extremely close. I think it was 2 minutes and 01. So she was extremely close to winning that race under 2 minutes, but she was very convincing throughout. And Juliet finished fourth, and the young lady from Penn State didn't even make it to the finals. It was an insanely tough 800 qualifying race for her, but for Gladys, not so much. She was very comfortable, and she ran like a champion. And hats off to Coach Elliott at Clemson, formerly of LSU, now at Clemson, doing a great job with his 800-meter runners. Don't forget he coached Natoya Gould and all those great 800-meter runners at LSU, Charlene Lipsey, Naisha Bernard Thomas. He had a great legacy there at LSU and doing a phenomenal job there at Clemson. And Gladys is just the next star under his belt. Now moving up to the mile, Wilma Nielsen. And I gotta apologize because I mentioned her in the prelim, the preview. And I said, she's a defending champion, and I'm putting her here as the dark horse simply because she's a defending champion. And this race, every single year, except for the year it was the young woman from Harvard, her name slips her mind, but it's been a constant shift of trying to figure out who amongst these elite groups are going to win it. But I said in the preview, this was the deepest mile field I think I've ever seen, and it proved to be the case. This was an insanely competitive race. It was very tactical. It was about who was going to run the smartest, and Wilma Nielsen, the defending champion, ends up being the smartest one. She ran a very gutsy race, made her move at the right time, and just didn't let up. And phenomenal race. I just do not know if that's going to be the same way outdoors. The women's mile was still missing elite talent that's going to show up outdoors. This is going to be insane. But we have to recognize Wilma Nielsen as the favorite going outdoors. We got to give her flowers. No more treating her like a dark horse because she's done it back to back. She's earned the respect. She's proven it. We got to give her credit. Hats off to her, and hats off to Oregon. That was another team title, or another event title that they won. The next athlete normally this spot would be reserved for Doris Lemengall, but she did not show up this weekend the way we thought she would. Instead, it was the super freshman, Jane Hedengren of BYU. And Jane was spectacular. She won the 3K, she won the 5K, and she won both races pretty convincingly. Once she got a lead, she just continued to dominate the field, and she was lapping people in the 5K. There were so many trying to keep up with her that they just couldn't. Um, Once she got away in the 5K, I thought, well, Doris will get back in the 3K. And the next day, Doris did not. She was a does not show. And I don't know what happened, but the better athlete won. And now the better athlete was Jane. She showed up in a big way. Anytime you can double like that, and let's give Doris her flowers. She's done that before, but anytime you can double like that, you get all the flowers, you get all the stars, you get all the notoriety. Jane earned it. She ran two very strong races. And Doris in the past has done that, but not this meet. The better athlete this meet was Jane, and we got to give her credit. Yes, she's a freshman, so we need to get comfortable with this name. It was a big deal when she signed with BYU, and we see why. Huge 20 points for BYU just off of her alone. Now, moving to the DMR, this is another event I got wrong. We have winning the DMR's Oregon. The Oregon women have a bevy of milers, and they have great coach Shalane Flanagan coaching them, and she clearly is focused on having a great amount of depth. I watched this race, and I felt that Oregon's weakness, because when they got the baton in the second leg, because the first 1,200-meter leg ran so smart and handed out the baton first. If not first, it was like a close second. Their 400 leg they headed off second because Iowa State's first leg ran a credible 1,200. But that 400 leg for Oregon, she was fighting for her life against a really strong 400 leg from Iowa State. Then the 800 leg is where things started to get interesting. And then by the mile leg, it was very, very clear that this is Oregon's race to win it. And they did that. And I thought it was going to be BYU. BYU was very disappointing here. They weren't even amongst the top five teams in the DMR. And I was actually kind of disappointed because I was hoping to see a national record in this event. This was the event that I was kind of secretly hoping, like, oh, we might get to see it. BYU may shut it down. No, they did not. It was all Oregon all the time. And after this race ended the night, on day one, I thought, well, that's it. Oregon is probably going to win the team title. Points are at a premium at this meet. If you can just get over 45 points, you have enough to win. I was convinced of that. And Oregon got pretty close to that, but just not enough points to hang with, the eventual champion. But that DMR performance stunned me because I really ended the night going, what the heck happened to BYU? Who was missing? And I know, many of us talk about this because it happens. The mile prelim is the first prelim ran at pretty much every indoor championship. And it's ran very at the beginning because oftentimes those same milers are going to double back and run on a DMR. And that did happen in the case of Oregon. It happened in the case of the Michigan men. We'll talk about what happened there. But Oregon runs their season best 10:48.76, nowhere near the time of BYU. Not even the meet record that BYU held last year of 10:45. It just stuns me, that performance by BYU. And they end up getting sixth. And we'll look at the final split on Oregon's mile run, and it was a 4:29 split. Sub 4:30, anytime you're doing that, you've got a hell of an anchor. Obviously, the fastest split will go to South Carolina, whose DMR finished second. And I think, once South Carolina puts everything together, they get this incoming class with another year of their current group that they have now. South Carolina is in the ballpark of Georgia. Just put it out there. They've got pieces. They got great distance and they've got great sprinters. They're developing their field, which is the area they need to really address. But they're a big program in waiting. Now, moving on from the DMR, we'll talk about the last running event on the track for women, and that was the women's 4x4. And the women's 4x4 had fireworks, and Arkansas did not disappoint. They did not disappoint. That 3:23, and I knew they had a good time in them. And not to say that the times that they had been running, but a 3:23 is an eye-popping time, whether it's indoor or out. Arkansas is just on a whole different level right now. I think when it comes to developing 400 and 800 runners and just great 4x4 relay effort. As great as Georgia was, as great as South Carolina was, and the unfortunate, mishap with Florida in the final, the first exchange, a 3:23.63, and Georgia running a 3:24.48, which was no slouch time. These times would have been great outdoors, but they're being ran indoors. Just so impressive. And I think that in regards to team title hopes, I think a decent year of recruiting, which is happening for Arkansas, is going to put them back in the national title discussion. So, now moving on to the field events, we'll talk about the women's long jump and Sophia Beckman. And I was really happy to get this correct. And she did what I thought she would do. She is a 22-foot jumper, and she was the only jumper on the women's side to jump in the 22 feet range. She showed up and showed out and jumped 22.5 and a quarter. As great as that is, that's still not even her seasonal best or personal best. But she was one of the Petros athletes that showed up. I thought that of all of his athletes this weekend, between her and Rose Yaboa, they did the best individually. They really carried the torch, and that's with the team that did incredibly well. Just off field athletes alone, Illinois finished third overall. That's just how strong they were. And at one point, it looked like if they just had points from either their pole vaulter or just more runners on the track, any runners really, they could have won that. I think he is aware that's what he needs to add to get his team to be a national champion. But they were very close with just the field athletes. And Sophia was, to me, the star of his team this weekend. And I think she is on her way to being one of the greatest long jumpers for women in NCAA history. I think another season with Petros, and we're looking at an athlete that may crack 23 feet next indoor season. I'm predicting that she breaks it this outdoor season. So I want to see what Sophia does. I'm really excited about her future. Now, moving to the triple jump, we had a surprise. I thought Shantae Foreman was going to win it, and she did well, but she was the runner up. It was Daniela Womakpego of Kansas State. The coaching staff that was at Arkansas that coached all those great triple jumpers and long jumpers went on to Kansas State, and here they are already with a national champion. And this is fresh off a third place finish at the Big 12 meet. She comes to the NCAA meet and puts up a personal best, 45 feet 5 inches, jumping 13.84 meters, and she becomes the national champion, defeating Shantae Foreman's 45 3.5, 13.80 meters. So it took her a mere 4 meters to, well, 4 hundredths of a meter to beat to beat Shantae Foreman. Daniela Wompego was one of two All America triple jumpers out of Kansas State. The fifth place finisher, Destiny Smith, who's a freshman, was able to jump 44 9 3/4 inch, 13.66. And Daniela's a junior. So with Shantae going on, with Ruta Lasman going on, we need to get ready for a Kansas State takeover like we used to see with Arkansas. Let's just get good and comfortable. Let's just buckle up and get ready for the Kansas State takeover. Now, moving on to the high jump, I'm happy to say I got this one right, and that's because she just was dominant all weekend long. She looked great, and she celebrated it. Her celebration was really, because she walked off like I knew I had that. Timmy Top Adeshina of Texas Tech. How about that? 6 feet 5.5, 1.97 meters. She equaled her personal best. I wanted to see her get the 2 meter jump, but I think she was a little too excited once she realized that she had clinched the national title. Rose Yaboa finished second with a 6 feet 4.25 inch jump, 1.94 meters. But, hats off to Timmy Tope. She is a junior. We're going to continue talking about her. I'm looking forward to more of her career. I think she's one of the more talented athletes looking to compete for Nigeria because she's, to me, someone that I think that has Olympic and World Championship medal hopes that are legitimate. And our last jumping event on the women's side we'll talk about is the pole vault. And I got this one right as well. Hannah Mall, the 2024 champion, comes back to win it and sets a meet record mark, 4.82 meters, 15 feet 9, 3.25 inches. Man, Hannah just dominated this field. She just is so superior to everyone else she competes with, not named Amanda Moan, her twin sister. Even Marlene Mulla of South Dakota, the senior, jumped 15, 1.5, 4.61 meters. Any other year where there's not a Mole's sister competing, she more than likely is the national champion. This is just a really, really tough athlete to go against. And this was a really strong field. They had some great performances. But Hannah is the winner. No surprise there. She broke the meet record that was actually set by her sister last year. Her sister still maintains the collegiate record. All right, so now we're out of the jumps and we're into the throwing events. We'll talk about the weight throw and redemption. Antoinette Nabwe. So I wrote you off in the preview video. I did. You saw that. And I apologize. Because you came back and said, let me get all those people over at Track Nerd 06's page together. Let me remind them of who I am and what I am capable of doing. She did have the best mark all year long. She stunningly lost at the Big Ten Championships to Vetisang Makete of Illinois, who finished runner-up. And I went with Giovanna Meek because I just thought, okay, Giovanna's ready. She won the SEC. She's ready to be that girl. And I picked her early in the season. And Giovanna, she threw well, 24-11, 79 feet, 1 3/4 inches, but she was third. Antoinette leaped to 82 feet, 5.5 inches, a personal best, 25.13 meters. She was like, I'm not leaving out without a title. And she earned it. Huge 10 points for Minnesota and also for the Big Ten, which went 1-2. And we're also not going to ignore the fact that there were two others that finished in the top eight from the Big Ten. You had Jordan Koskandi of Illinois, and then you had Taylor Kessner of Wisconsin. And I mentioned Kessner as a part of my preview early. She's not really, I think, had the season that she was looking for. Hopefully, things transition better for her outdoors. But hats off to Antoinette Nabwe for showing up, for getting your eyes back on the target, which is winning a national title. You didn't let losing the Big Ten title fold you. You can always win another Big Ten title, and you'll probably win one outdoors. But hats off to you to coming back, setting a personal best to win the women's weight throw. Good job on you. And the shot put, yeah, I got that right. And I think all of you are probably like, well, who didn't see this one coming? It was Axelina Johansson of Nebraska. Now, there's not a meet that we're going to have, and it's the NCAA championship meet, and Nebraska's not going to leave with at least a national champion, it seems like, especially in the field. I've said this repeatedly. They're probably the best school at teaching technique. And you can see that with Axelina. 19.55 meters, 64 1 3/4 inches to win. That's not even a seasonal or a personal best. And she won it kind of comfortably. And this was an interesting competition because it did not unfold the way I thought. I think positions 2 through 7, you could shake around and they could adjust all again. Alita Van Dalen of Florida ended up in sixth. She went in. We expected her to go either third or fourth. Megan Haug, who I had predicted would be runner up, she didn't finish second. She finished fourth. And it was Akaoma Odeluga of Ole Miss, of course. Coach Connie Price Smith is going to have somebody at Ole Miss in the throws amongst the elite. She has yet to fail as a head coach. And she was the only other athlete over 60 feet. 60 feet, 6.5 inches, 18.45 meters. Well done by them. Now we're going to move to the pentathlon. And this is where things got interesting because I did predict that it would be Megan Humphreys. She ran such an incredible competition in the Big Ten meet, but she was DQ'd in the 800. And that's just disappointing because she was having a pretty good meet going into that. Um, and I think if she had just been allowed, I'm thinking we're looking at maybe not her winning, but her finishing second or third. But instead, it was a freshman. It was a freshman, Lisa Maria Lusty of Oregon. So Oregon is not just having hurdlers and distance runners, they're also having throwers and multi-event athletes winning. She had a total of 4,498 points. She ended up jumping 21 feet 9 inches. With a jump like that, I think outdoors, if I'm the Oregon coaching staff, and they've been very good with their jumpers, let's not forget, they've been very good. This is the athlete that I know. Not only does she do the heptathlete for me, I would also have her individually compete the long jump. Because I think points are at a premium, specifically even more outdoors. I would have her do the long jump. A mark like that is insanely impressive. And I think because it was such a big mark, it's what vaulted her over J. Sienna Euro Halt of Illinois, the other freshman from, obviously from Petros. She looked like she was in great position to win it. She had 2 wins under her belt. She won the high jump, she won the shot put, and she didn't do too bad in the long jump. She was ninth. Um, and I thought, oh no, she's going to be it. But that impressive performance by Lisa Maria Lusty in the long jump, but she also did very well in the high jump, and she held her head high in the 800, finishing 10th overall. She eked past J. Sienna, 4,498 points. That was an insanely good competition in the pentathlon. Now, moving to the team title, um, Georgia is the victor. And Coach Carroll, I don't know if you ever listened to my channel, but I sing your praises a lot. Many of the people here can attest to that. And I say that proudly as a Florida fan, that you are just one impressive coach. You not only have a great coaching staff, but it's clear that you know what is needed to rally a team together to win an NCAA title. There were some performances that didn't necessarily go your way, but you found a way to win, and you walk away with, I believe, a couple of event titles in the 200 and the 400. And Adasia was runner up in the 60, and you've got more athletes coming outdoors. And here, yet, with everything, in flux and all the changes, your team still found a way to win, and you scored 53 points. Hats off to you and your coaching staff. Hats off to the athletes from the University of Georgia representing Bulldogs in an amazing light. You just keep winning national champions. Eventually, that men's program is going to catch up. I think this young class is a part of developing that. But the women are already there. They're a household name and they're going to constantly be that. Now, we're going to shift to the men's side and we'll get right back to the sprints on the men's side, the 60-meter. And I'm happy that I was right. Kenyan Sola Ajayi of Auburn, by way of Nigeria, ties the collegiate record that he also tied at the SEC meet, 6:45. And it looked interesting because if you saw day one, the talk of everybody was, oh, did you see young Jelani Watkins? And I got to give him his credit. He's another proof that the transfer portal really can work for some of these kids, and we got to stop knocking it because they don't know if they don't know until they get on campus and they realize this may not be the best situation for me. And his situation necessarily wasn't track related, it was football related. But his transition to Arkansas has worked beautifully for him. He ran 6.46 in the semifinal against Kenyan Solo, who did not beat him out of the blocks. He was first out of the blocks and he drove. His drive phase was excellent. And you looked to see, oh wait, is Kenyan Solo going to try to put on another gear? And it looked like he was going to try. And he said, I'm going to wait to the final. You could see the decision that he kind of made around the 40, 45, maybe 50-meter mark. You could see that just in that brief 1 second moment, the wisdom that he experienced, let me relax. I'm going to finish second in this heat. I'm going to get to the finals, no problem. Because that 6.46 Jelani had everybody talking about that's who's going to win. And I was like, I'm glad I made my predictions the time I did because I don't know who's going to win it. I really want Kanye Solo to win it because that's who I picked. And then he came back in the final and matched his seasonal best and matched the NCAA record, 6.45, which I think is going to be really hard to beat. I thought he was going to break it. And even with that impressive race, he still wasn't able to. But we are looking forward to seeing what he does outdoors and what he's going to do in his post-collegiate career as well. Now, moving to the men's 200, we had history made. And I mentioned this in the previous. This is one of the ones I got correct. Garrett, and I believe the last name pronunciation is actually Kalen, not Kalun. So my apologies if I get his name mispronounced wrong a lot. I'm sorry. I really apologize. If I'm wrong here, still someone correct me. I have no problem with correction, as you can see. But I am stunned with what we saw because we saw a great race between him and Jelani in the semi. So yes, Jelani was all the talk Friday night. That's all we heard. That's all I saw. All on social media, all that was on my phone. I was like, okay, we need to wait. Because at some point I was like, he's a little too hot. Something's up. And Garrett said, what's up. I'm going to run this 19.9 down everybody's throat. Yes! An American record, number 2 all time. It's just him and Frankie Fredericks are the only two under 20 seconds indoors. Only two, 1995. He almost broke Frankie Fredericks' world record. Oh, I cannot believe we are to the point where the indoor champion has run sub 20. Just 5 or 6 years ago, that's what was needed to win the outdoor title. Hats off to you, Garrett, and hats off to that USC coaching staff. Because, man, y'all are really producing some great sprinters. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens outdoors because Garrett is very fluid. He can run the 1, the 2, and the 4. I think he runs the 400 solely for, speed endurance, and that pays off. That pays off. I want to see what's going to happen to him outdoors. Is he going to run the 4x1 anchor leg, or are they going to be smart and put him on that second leg so he can eat everybody up? Yes, I just want to see that. But Garrett really excited me. What a great race. That was to me the highlight of the weekend. I loved the men's 200 19.95. Way to go, Garrett. The 400 was another doozy, and I got this right as well. Samuel Ogazi by way of Alabama from Nigeria. Yep, Nigeria had a weekend. He was joined by another great 400-meter runner, Justin Braun. Hats off to you, Justin. You ran a great race. You've had a great indoor season, and I gave you a little love in the preview, and you backed me up, and I thank you for that. Justin ran 44.77 in the semi. And there was even a popular Twitter, I'm not going to say his name, he was like, yeah, he's going to falter in the finals. Samuel's going to get him. Now, Samuel did win, but he didn't falter in the finals. They ran two incredible races. You had Samuel Ghazi running 44.57, tying Karan Clement's Florida record. His that was the fourth all time, and at one time, Karan Clement held onto that record as the indoor world record forever. He had it from 2005 until Michael Norman broke it. So that was what, 13, 14 years? An insane amount of time. And here's Samuel Ghazi setting it again. I believe Samuel Ghazi is either 19 or 20. He's very young. So this might be the next big guy in the 400. And I think I'm going to say it here now. I think Samuel Ghazi will be the first Nigerian athlete to go sub 44. So it won't just be the Botswanan athletes. It won't just be the South African athletes. We got to add the Nigerians in there too. Woo, the world stage is getting so competitive. And if you're someone who loves track, I love it. I love every little minute of it. Congratulations, Samuel. Look forward to seeing what you do outdoors. Now, pivoting to probably the other man of the meet, and I feel bad because I didn't pick this, and I held on to this pick for all of indoor season, and I let the Big 12 championship throw me off, and then I changed. I pivoted and said, no, I'm not going to change. And then when I did the preview, I changed during the recording. I had originally said I'm going to stick with Jacoby, and I said no, I'm going to go with Malachi. But Jacoby Tharp proved me initially right, but made me look like the fool that I can be sometimes because he went and did something none of us saw. And this is also proof for anyone that doubts this when it comes to hurdlers who just say they just need to have good speed. They do not. They have to have flawless technique. If you have great speed with flawless technique, you cannot be touched. And Jacoby Tharp proved it. He broke Grant Holloway's NCAA record. He clocked a 7:32, and he did it against Bradley Franklin, who ran 7:43. He was very dominant. He had the best start, and he was supremely smooth over every single hurdle. Every single hurdle. No one could touch that. He is proof that you can have flawless technique with great speed, and you will not be touched. 7:32. He hasn't lost a race at all in, I want to say, since last outdoor season on the professional stage. But with a time like that, he's in the all-time, I want to say top four, top five all time. Do not be surprised if Jacoby at the end of this season makes a decision to turn pro because I think he's ready now. With a time like that, you're breaking Grant Holloway's NCAA record. I thought that was going to sit for a little while longer. Nope. It lasted a grand total of 7 years. Hats off to you, Jacoby. Thank you for an incredible race. 7:32. My goodness. Then we move on to our first distance event on the men's side, and we'll look at the men's 800. This race did not go the way I anticipated for it to go at all. And I wanted to say this was kind of almost a stinker, but it really wasn't. It's just the time didn't really wow anybody. After a year of a lot of 144s and 145s, the winning time was 146 flat by Tyrese Taylor of Arkansas by way of Jamaica. His teammate Rivaldo Marshall finished second in 146.12, and that kind of secured the national title for Arkansas at that point. Points were at a premium indoors, and they just scored 18 points in one event. So I'm just going to say the quiet part out loud. Arkansas showed up when it was time to show up. And they were proof of it. They both ran very smart races, but particularly Tyrese. He looked great. And unfortunately, Hondo Robin, who I predicted, who came in this meet with a 144.7, Didn't seem like his head was in it before he was even slightly tripped, which we saw happened the last sort of 100 meters, to go. But that wasn't going to make a difference because he was way back in like seventh, and he never really got back in it. He finished, I believe, seventh. So I'm just going to give credit where credit is due. Tyrese Taylor showed up and showed out and was ready to win a national title. On the men's side, in the mile, great competition. The guy I picked, Trick McFarland, did not win, Michigan guy, but he did finish third. And he had me very nervous because I don't know if I agree with his tactics. He stayed in the back a little too long, just a little too long. Because when he launched his effort to close, he went from like ninth to third. And I'm like, you could have left like maybe 2 or 3 seconds early and perhaps you win this thing. Because he runs 3:59.45. Carter Cutting of BYU ends up being our champion. He runs 3:58.94. And George Cooney, who I was worried he was going to be too tired from the DMR, he found a way to finish second in 3:59.3. This was an incredibly competitive race, very tactical. It depended on who moved smart. I thought some moved a little too early, and I thought some moved too late. But Carter Cutting picked the right time. Once he took the lead, I was like, yeah, no, they're not catching him. Because he ran such a smart race. He made sure to stay near the front and just kept competitive throughout. Took the lead and didn't relinquish it. Hats off to him. Hats off to the BYU coaching staff because it proves that when it comes to distance, it's hard to top what they're able to do. Next event we'll look at has a little bit of story to it. It is the men's 3000. And I picked Marco Langen to win that one. He was not a big factor in the race. He did run technically well. He finished third overall, but technically he was fourth. The initial winner of that race was Hampton Samuel, but he was disqualified. And that left Colin Salmon, who is, number two all time in the 800, 144.7. He ends up winning in 7:41.66. Hats off to Colin. I mean, just found a way to win it, even though Hampton kind of won it. But we're going to give Colin his flowers. He could have qualified in the 800, the mile, the 3K, the 5K. He had 4 events to qualify for. And the smart thing for Northern Arizona to do was to let him run the DMR and only run the event that's going to be on day two. That way you have him competing with two fresh legs. And for them, it kind of worked out well both ways. We'll talk about the DMR in a minute. But Colin leaves the meet a national champion. He came into college with a lot of fanfare, and he's just, he's lived up to the hype. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole talent, distance talent of his, explodes outdoors. What will he focus outdoors? We'll move up to the 5K, and we'll give Hampton his flowers here, because Hampton Samuel did end up winning the 5K for New Mexico. He ran an incredible race, 13:36.58. It was very close. It was a battle between him and Marco Langen. This was the event that Marco really showed up. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to win it. Hampton said not today. 13:36.58 to Marco Langen's 13:36.98. They both were smart. They both were tough and competitive. And this is going to continue outdoors. So expect for more from this. Those of you who are going to the pit relays will get an opportunity to see Marco Langen up close and personal because Villanova is a confirmation. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this further transpires outdoors. I want them to compete in the 5,000 again. And we're moving to the DMR, and this is our last, no, second to last running event to talk about. The men's DMR was so insane. I mean, the lead changes and the competition up front, it threw me. I went into this meet really hoping that Michigan would pull it out. They did run a pretty smart race. I do not think Anchor Leg Trent ran a smart race. I think he got the baton. I want to say he was either second or first. And he waited for the Arkansas guy to take the lead and was going to just trail him. And I think that was a mistake. I think he should have just ran his race because his split wasn't an impressive split. He split a 4 minute 15. And I was like, if you just run your race, you're capable of a 352. Let's say you run 356.15, you're the national champion. You're at 357, you're also a national champion. So I just think he did not run his race, and the team paid for it, finishing fourth. Northern Arizona had Colin Salmon on the anchor, fresh leg, because he's not running a five. He's not running 5K. He's not running a mile. Not running an 800. He wasn't running until the next day because the DMR is held on Friday. Ran a great anchor leg and led Northern Arizona to a DMR national title with 9:19.95. They were the only sub 920 team in the entire field. He ran a 357 anchor split. Northern Arizona looked solid in every bit of the race. They had a great first leg who ran 2:49.8 for a 1200, 45.8 for the second leg, and the 400, and the 800 a 147.2. Not the Virginia Tech leg who ran a 144.6. Yeah, you heard me correctly. The third leg Virginia Tech ran a 144.6. I was like, yikes. But the anchor leg for Northern Arizona strong. And Virginia Tech, I think, was just a little too far behind. Their 1200 leg did not set them up well. If I'm not mistaken, I think he handed off the baton like ninth or 10th. Ooh, he was way back there. So they had to climb all the way up, and they finished third. Arkansas finishes second overall. They had two really great splits from their 400 leg, 44.8, and they had a 148 leg from their 800 meter runner. They ran a 9:21.42. Great team performance by Arkansas. All right. And moving on to the 4x4, South Carolina wins it, but I want to pause here because this to me was the most disappointing race of the entire meet. And you're going to ask me why. The reason why is because this season we have uh, been allowed to witness, I want to say, four or five great 4x4 teams. There's Florida, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Alabama, and I'm going to throw Georgia in there also. Perhaps maybe even Tennessee. To me, none of the teams showed up to perform to the level that they're capable of. It just felt like after a season of great performances, the 4x4 was a bit of a dud. And that's not to say I wasn't in it. I was watching it with, of course, bated breath. Again, I'm a Florida fan. I'm going to tell the truth. And at one point, I thought, oh, man, the Gators are going to win the 4x4. Something to hold your head up. And no, putting a freshman on the anchor leg is going to produce sometimes freshman results. Jaden Horton Mims looked like he was out of it at that point. His legs looked dead. And he unfortunately anchored like that. He ran a 47.7 anchor. And that is, woo, for someone that can run a low 45, if he just runs his outdoor PR as an anchor, they win that event. Just saying. But South Carolina was a clear victor, 302.07. Alabama was second, 303.6. I'm more excited now for outdoors because I think that we're looking at a team that could potentially run a 257 or a 258, and that's going to be needed to win. The 4x4 is very competitive, D1 now, and I think those same programs that I mentioned will be in it to win it. Now that ends the running events for the men. We'll move on to the long jump. And a surprise here, because I did not pick the long jump champion. He has been mentioned on my channel before. He's actually been the headliner. But that is Lokesh Satyanathan of Tarleton State. Now, Tarleton State is not going to let us forget that they're there. They're this small school that's from Texas, that shows up and shows out at every major meet. This coaching staff has proven to just be sensational. 26.11 and a quarter inch, or 8.21 meters. That's his personal best. And he won the event by literally a quarter of an inch. Runner-up DeAndre Ward of Southern Miss jumps 8.20 meters, 26.11. And he was a scratch qualify. Because Quincy Isaac of Michigan scratched, he was added as the last-minute qualifying. He finishes with a PR and finishes second nationally. And at one point, we thought he was going to win. But hats off to Lokesh. He is, I want to say, the only champion from Charleston State this weekend, and they had quite a few competing, hoping to walk away with the national title. On the men's triple jump, I did get right, and I'm rooting on my frat brother Brandon Green. I was really hoping that he was able to pull it out. He fell a little short, but we're going to give my prediction some love because I predicted Jonathan Sareems of Texas Tech. I didn't see this mark coming. 56, 7 1/4, 17.25 meters. He is a junior, by the way. So we will probably have another year with him. I don't think he turns pro, but he can if he wants to with a mark like that. But this was an incredibly deep field. 7 through 1 all went over 54 feet. Take that in. 7 through 1. Brandon Green finished fourth overall. Kelsey Daniel, who did not have the long jump that he wanted, he finished third overall. In Kansas State, get ready because they're coming. Selva Prabhu, 17.05 meters, 55, 11 1/4. He's a sophomore. He's going to be a thorn in Jonathan's side. They're both in the Big 12. Some more fireworks coming for them. Now, moving on to the high jump, this is where another surprise came from because I didn't even have this man mentioned. And so I apologize. And this is not because he's an Ivy Leaguer, it's because he just wasn't one of the higher names listed. It took him a personal best, but Tito Alofe of Harvard. And Tito jumps 7 feet 4 1/4 inches, 2.24 meters, personal best. And again, Harvard has been producing national champions pretty regularly at this point. So the idea that you can go to an Ivy League school and still come out a champion needs to be a thing. He's kind of proven it. All right. Moving on to the pole vault. This was another shocker. I was just like, I'm getting them all wrong. I felt terrible at this event because I was really hanging my hat on James Rode of Washington or Dyson Wicker, but neither one of them won it, and it ended up being a Kansas guy, Ashton Barkdale of Kansas. He was the one of two people to jump over 19 feet, 19 feet and a quarter inch, 5.8 meters, but he did it before Alexander Solovev of Texas A&M. And Alexander, good to hear your name again because you haven't been mentioned amongst the elite for a while, not since last year. And here you are back again, reminding us of who you are. I think he's going to do some more of that outdoors. Just you watch. But Ashton Barkdale walks away the champion. I want to say this is the second of this coaching staff, the second national champion indoors for the pole vault for Kansas. They are becoming a preeminent program when it comes to developing pole vaulters. The men's shot put went as you expected. Tariq Robinson O'Hagan. Again, I told you Coach Connie Price Smith was not going to leave without her throwers doing well, and he certainly did do well. Not a personal best, but that wasn't needed. 67 feet 9 inches, 20.65 meters to win it all. 10 team points for Ole Miss. He was the only thrower in this event for Ole Miss, and he ends up being the winner. For team title hopes, this did kind of hurt Florida. Jarno, the freshman, he finished seventh. But for Oregon, this went very well. You had Kobe Lawrence finish second, and you had Ben Smith finish fourth. Just between those two, that's 13 points. That was huge for Oregon. Now we move to the weight throw, and Ryan Johnson, our Superman in the sky, the Big Ten king, is now the national king. He's the NCAA record holder. And what a way to cap off an incredible indoor season with a facility and meet record and an NCAA record. Well, close to an NCAA record, I'm sorry. A facility and meet record. 84 feet, 1.5 inches, 25.64 meters. He wins by almost 5 inches. Just incredible. Excuse me, by 5 feet. Just incredible performance for him. He's been great all year long. He is a junior. And so I'm looking forward to what else he does on the collegiate level. I want to see him outdoors. And I don't think anybody really is going to be on his level outdoors. But I've been proven wrong. Things can change outdoors. But Ryan Johnson, we're giving you your flowers now. You had a season, my man. Great work by you. And our final individual event on the men's side is the heptathlon. And Peyton Bear, woo, did he not shock us this weekend? He ran the NCAA record for a 60-meter for a heptathlete, 6.67. Yes, you heard me correctly. That put him way out front. He had 1,000 points on one event. He scored a total of 6,503 points. So he had real support from the 60. A great long jump, he was the winner there. A great shot put, he was the winner there. So at the end of day one, he was pretty strong. He had 3 wins under his belt. He finished second in the 60 hurdles and third in the 1,000, fourth in the pole vault, eighth in the high jump. He was a top 10 in every single event. Way to go, Peyton. Just shy of breaking the NCAA record. I think he has the tools to do it. He just has to do it. And for the team title, wow, or Arkansas. Arkansas. Let's give them their flowers because they are to track and field what Alabama has been to football. They are regularly competing for a national title. And yes, it was on their home track. They showed out in a big way. 73.5 points. They win the event, the NCAA meet, by more than 33.5 points. Oregon was second with 40, and Florida was third with 26. But wow, oh wow, Arkansas strong. Great 4x4, DMR, 800, mile. I want to say 3K and 5K. Just great performance all around. I thought they were going to need their jumpers to be what they used to be. No, they kind of got it down. So hats off to Arkansas and to that amazing coaching staff on another national title. Like, can somebody else get some? Come on now, y'all hawking it a little bit too much. But this was a great meet. As you can tell in my voice, I'm dealing with a little bit of the flu and allergies. Really, more allergies than the flu. But I am just, I feel on a track high. We were treated to a great meet. The conversation on social media was just really positive and strong. A lot of wonderful trash talk, a lot of happy moments. I think this meet brings pretty much everyone together all over the world, and we saw that the international athletes really came to play, and that's going to be the story moving forward. This is such a great fun meet, so I'm looking forward to um, the outdoor season. We'll have an outdoor preview soon, but let's celebrate and bask in the glow of what was a great indoor season. Congratulations, Georgia women and Arkansas men on the national championships. SEC, at least in track and field, is still king. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I know this video was also long because normally I split the men and women up, but not this time. I felt it too good to not talk about them all at once. So again, there will be a preview video coming. We got other videos. I want to talk about the transfer portal and how it's positively impacted track and field athletes and more other stuff coming. So thank you again. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. And yes, you can see I do get busy in the comments with you all. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next video.